So what happened is they miraculously just stopped crying. That did not mean they started sleeping, but they just did not cry. They were not crying anymore. So you would find that it's Satano and they are laughing, singing. My kids sing. They sing all kinds of songs. So you would find them singing, laughing. I think they just had some peace. You know, we assume children do not have feelings, but they do. Children have feelings. Much as we do not think they do, children have feelings. They know when the environment is peaceful. They know when the environment is toxic. They always know. So I think they sensed a peace, a level of peace they had never experienced before, because they were born in that house, raised in that house. All the things that happened in that house, there was a level of toxicity in that house. So once we moved, they just settled. They stopped crying. They stopped becoming aggressive, and they became better. Better in the sense that their sleep patterns changed. They stopped waking up in the middle of the night to cry. In fact, at that point, they had developed speech, kidogo speech that is expressive. So if they want water, they would no longer bring you a cup. They would bring a cup and tell you much. If they want food, whatever kind of food they want, they will bring you a kasahani, and they are like doma. We stopped taking weight now. We slowly and gradually adjusted to doma. So we would do everything we can do to domas. Like we've tried every recipe there is for doma. So they would tell you doma, they want to wash it, they want, of course sometimes they will ask for cornflakes. We used to do cornflakes with water, then we stopped that nonsense. Now we give them cornflakes with milk, because it's a one in so many days. They don't always eat them. So they learned, or they developed, or they acquired that expressive speech in 2018. 2018 they were 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18. They were about 5 years. That's when they developed.
Now they're how old? 9.
So they were born in 2014. So they developed at 5 years. They developed expressive speech, meaning they can see one word. Kitambo they were using gestures, shaker. Well, decide what you want to do with that plate, what you're going to put in that plate. Now they stopped doing that. Now they're able to tell you maji, chai, uji, whatever, all that. And then they started learning, because we would now communicate with them. Tasha does not take meat. Tasha does not take chapati. Tasha does not take bread. So we stopped cooking chapatis in my house, just so that you don't put them in a temptation to want to eat those chapos. But once in a while they fall back. That diet is too strict. Once in a while they fall back. Even right now, utasikia her saying nipe chapo, but it's not something like we eat every day. So the person who was really hard to adjust is us and the normal child.
So that means there are specific food that make this autistic kid to be hyper.
Yes. Gluten, anything gluten, that is wheat and wheat products. Casein, milk and milk products, anything milk, not a cheese. And sugars. Sugars make them hyperactive. Casein affects their gut lining, which affects the chemicals that are processed in the brain, and also the protein. So if you eliminate that, you eliminate those things from their diet. You remove sugar and sugar products and those processed juices and those sweet fruits, you know, the apples, bananas. If you minimize them, of course, because you cannot eliminate them, let's be honest, you cannot eliminate them completely. But if you minimize them, you definitely minimize their hyperactivity. You manage their energy levels so they do not have that hyperactivity. If you remove the wheat and you minimize the wheat and wheat products and minimize the casein and milk products, you also it brings a positive. You will definitely see the positive result. So sometimes they are easily irritable. When my kids are reacting like that, we are always able to trace it back to ni ile kamaziwa alipatana nayo mahali fulani. You know, like the way she's behaving, it is that
milk, maybe.
Like for example, if you go to the supermarket with them right now, honestly telling this child that you cannot pick milk na anaiona hapo, it's going to be drama. They're going to be dramatic. So you either decide to leave them in the house, or if you go out with them, you decide to compromise. Because how do you start explaining to a child? And you see, the bad thing about autistic children is they do not them not being able to express themselves frustrates them as much as it frustrates you as a parent. You see, not understanding them frustrates you as a parent. Them not being able to express themselves frustrates them in an equal measure. So the same frustration I'm feeling is the same they feel. How do they express their frustration? They get meltdowns.
Come. Why are you crying? We said, Natalie, tulisema no biting yourself. Wewe si Daisy, usijiume. Sawa? Yes? You're not Daisy. You don't bite yourself. And then, if something is bad, ama something has happened to you, you use useme, usilie. Ukilia Mr. Understand. Unaenda wapi ukilia? Panguza macho. What is it now? Enda uchukue kitchen. Natasha? Tash, come. Tash?
That's why you see most autistic kids behave in a crazy way. So a child will just start crying. And sometimes, or you will see people saying that this child needs to be beaten.
Yeah, true.
Ama, this child is indisciplined. Because when an autistic child is having a meltdown, it's not the same as when your normal child is having a tantrum. A normal child throwing a tantrum is maybe to attract attention. They want your attention, they want sympathy, they want something else. But an autistic child having a meltdown, they have lost control of their senses. They are not able to control themselves. Actually, they call it sensory overload. A good way of controlling their senses is steaming. My child steams. Tasha does this a lot. Kitambo, we used to stop her because we couldn't understand what. But this is her way of regulating herself. Her self-regulation. This is she does.
Okay.
You see autistic kids doing this.
Yeah, I see them.
They're trying to bring their senses to under control. If they lose control of that, now they go to meltdowns. They become crazy, and the meltdowns can be they can induce physical injuries. They Katagongo could throw themselves, they could hit themselves, they could hurt themselves. It's all because they're not able to control their senses. Like they're having a sensory overload. Like they're hearing too much, they're seeing too bright, too much, they are feeling too much, and they cannot manage that. So if a child is not able to express themselves, all those feelings are overwhelming, and they erupt into a meltdown. And if there's anything you can do before a child gets a meltdown, do just what you have to do. So when we get to the supermarket and you can buy milk and go deal with hyperactivity without meltdowns later, we buy it. Because once this child is unable to control themselves and they are throwing, they could even throw everything off the shelves in the supermarket. Forget about embarrassment. Us days we've gotten over the part of being embarrassed. But how much work have you left the supermarket people doing?
And then some of them, they don't
They will not understand. They will think this child needs to be beaten.
Yeah.
You see, okay, autistic kids are people who should be disciplined. But the way you discipline them and the way they understand discipline is not the same way as a normal child takes discipline. So us guys, we used to beat Natasha. I used to be very violent because I was raised by a very violent mother, and you know we learn our parenting skills from our families of origin. Until recently, I got into a parenting class and I learned the positive discipline. Positive discipline is where you are now firm with your child but kind. Why? Because you do not want to produce the same results that our parents produced in us. We assume that we were good, we turned out fine, we were beaten, we turned out fine, but we are not. We are very dysfunctional. So when you look at punishing a child in a physical way or in a way that is inflicting pain, it brings you instant results. Like if you want them to do something, they will do because umemchapa. But in the long run, it affects that child's self-esteem. It affects their trust issues, gives them trust issues. You see, they're supposed to trust you as a parent, but if you're inflicting pain because they made mistakes, when will they ever learn? So the process of disciplining a special child, much as it's pretty much the same as that of a normal child, is very different. It requires a lot of kindness and a lot of firmness, because they can also be very manipulative. So you have to be firm and kind at the same time, and patient.
That's amazing. Do you sometimes feel like almost giving up?
Enough times, every day.
Yeah, because I know you are human. No matter how you try to show you are strong, have you ever reached a point like you feel like I'm just tired of this?
Of course, every day. I think literally every day. I'll be honest with you, it gets tiring almost every day, because every time I get home, now my children want my attention. I am from work, I am tired. So I get home, this is when now they want to fight. This is when they want to throw all the meltdowns they have blocked the whole day, and I'm supposed to deal with that. Any day I spend home with my children is a crazy day, because I think children have a way, even normal children, they have a way of being children when their mother is around. Because when my nanny is home with them, they barely throw those meltdowns unless it's extremely important. So they will hold until I'm home. And then now, you've dealt with students. I told you I'm a lecturer. You've dealt with students, you've dealt with parents, you've dealt with fellow colleagues. You're tired. You want to go home and sleep. You get home, they want to cry. You cannot ignore a child who's having a meltdown, because they are one way or the other looking for attention. Ignoring them will send a message to their brain that, kumbe I don't matter. And you know, when that message gets to their brain, they develop coping mechanisms. And these coping mechanisms can be maladaptive, like they can isolate, and it will be with them till they are in their adulthood. Like they isolate, they could do crazy stuff just to get your attention. They could get depressed. By the way, special children are very much prone to depression and anxiety. So however you react or you respond to their cry for attention can affect them or make them. So you have to be very patient, and you have also to be self-regulate, because sometimes steam in abanda.
I know.
You just want to slap this child. I've seen people tell me that, and I have done that before. You want to slap this child into silence, you will slap them and they will keep quiet. But what are you doing to them? Destroying their esteem, destroying their sense of self-worth, because they're not crying because they want. They are crying because they cannot control themselves. Now you as a parent or as the adult, it is your job now to try and get into their world and understand exactly what is this child trying to communicate. Because for a child who is not able to express themselves, you must think for them.
So it's like currently, are they in special school or they're just in normal school?
We started in a normal school. It wasn't helping much, but it's a good thing. A normal school helps because kids learn through observation. So what they see others do is what they copy. So when we put them in a normal school, it trained them a few basics that they see the other normal children do. But at some point they couldn't stay in a normal school because the teachers were not able to handle them, and the teachers in a normal school are not trained to handle them. And then in a private school, normally what happens is that the parents of the other normal children will always feel like your children are getting special attention than their children, and that brings conflict. Because a class maybe has 35 pupils and one teacher, then your children need more attention. So one day the director of the school had put my children in, told me, we cannot accommodate these children here because the parents will complain, because the children need more attention, and this teacher is not able to give that attention to the children and still give these other 34 the attention they need. So we've had to put them in a special school. In a special school now, the teachers are trained to handle them. And in the special school, the focus is very different from a normal school. The focus is to give this child life skills. You know, like the way a normal school, we grade you based on how well you're doing your mathematics, how well you're able to read, how well you're able to write within a line. In a special school, we grade you based on how well you're able to dress yourself. How well are you able to measure the right amount of what to put on your toothbrush? How well are you able to wear your sweater, not front back? You know, like if you're able to wear your sweater and know this is the front side and not the back side, you do it well. So that is what my kids have been learning in the special school. And now, of course, you keep upgrading. They keep upgrading as soon as they acquire this skill. They are moved to the next level, and they have learned a lot in a special school. But it's in a special school. They're in a special school of a public school that has an integrated system. So they get to interact with both the normal children and the special kids. I did a lot of rounds looking for a special school, and we have a lot of special, actually autism specific schools. Now my reservations are two. One, those schools are very expensive. Actually 3 reservations. Those schools are very expensive. When you have 2 children and you have to cost maybe over 100,000 per term, in this economy, not so many people can afford that. So a child over 50,000 for every term, not so many people, especially parents of special children, can afford that. Now the other thing is most of them are boarding schools. I always feel like we were traumatized because I went into a boarding school when I was in class 8. I was traumatized enough and I was able to come home and tell my mom, food ya shule sishibi. Oh, this child who cannot come and tell me what goes on with, I feel like it's a bit too much. The other thing is when you put them with autistic kids who have zero speech, what do you expect them to learn speech from? So those are my reservations from all the schools I've been to. I've been into a number of them. They are good, but I felt like they are not good enough for us. So we continued to go into a public school. You know the situation of public schools in Kenya. Yeah. So my first worry was their inability to use the pit latrine, and they actually regressed. Now regression is another thing that happens with autism. Regression is when you learn something and then unlearn. And regression happens a lot, especially when there's a change of environment. A child is stressed and stuff like that. They cause the child to regress. So they can lose their speech. You might note that a child who was able to express themselves, all of a sudden they are not. A child who used to be bubbly, all of a sudden they have sunk back. A child who was toilet trained, all of a sudden they are suing and pooing on themselves again. It happens in a special unit of a normal school.
So they are not in a special school.
They are not in a special school, but special schools are there. Many, very many. Actually, autism specific schools are very many. Very many.
But
costly, and then they're autism specific. So one time, actually it was a doctor who advised me and told me, please don't take your children into an autism specific school, because kids learn through observation and imitating what other kids are doing. You take them into a special school, autism special school, they will just learn to be autistic because that's what other kids are doing. These other kids don't have speech, so there's no way your children are going to have speech. But if you put them in a normal school or in an integrated school, because that's what they call them, the schools that have a special unit and they have the normal children, then they can learn from the normal children when they are interacting during breaks and all that. So I think that has really helped us, because when they get into class, they have the attention of a specially trained teacher. When they go out there, they have the ability to interact with other normal children, and therefore they get to learn through observing what the normal children are doing. Yeah, so we have not put them in a special school, in a special unit of an integrated school.
Yeah, I understand. Of course, there are some challenges that you go through as an autistic mother. Apart from you having a lot of work that you do in the house, what are some of the challenges you face outside, like the place you live? Do people isolate your kids, or how do they take you?
Isolation. Hey, judgment. The first thing you get is judgment. You see, the society is very funny. we have a lot of empathy for physically challenged people. You see someone walking in crutches, you can even easily help them up the stairs because you can see their disability. But when you have someone who has unknown physical disability, because autistic kids, there's nothing that sets them apart. You cannot just look at someone and say that they have autism. There's nothing physically showing you that this child is autistic.
It's invisible.
It is an invisible disability. So anytime the child behaves in a weird way, the judgment is you are you judged as a parent of the undisciplined child.
Or it's like you failed as a parent.
You are a bad parent. You've not been able to discipline your child. Your child is not well mannered. So the first thing we had to experience was not being invited into birthday parties, because your children will go and they will not be controllable because they are not well mannered. So we stopped being invited to birthday parties. Okay, consequently, we also stopped doing birthday parties because who do you invite? If all the other people are not inviting you, who do you invite? And then you're also not supposed to eat sugar, eat milk and all that. What is cake made of? All that. So we kind of stopped doing birthdays and we stopped going for birthdays. The other thing that you get is, I call it advocacy fatigue. Like, you really get tired every time. Okay, me got defensive. I don't know about other people. Okay, people normally hide their children. You get to hide your child because you're tired of being judged.
Yeah.
Now me, I am not able to hide because there is no way I'm going to keep quiet. So we get to places with my children and they misbehave, and the first thing I tell someone, before you point a finger at them, this child is autistic. So almost everyone I know, or almost everyone who's met me, knows my children are autistic. Because I will tell you, we go to the hospital, the doctor is looking at the child and they imagine, this is a big child. You should be able to explain to me what you feel. So the doctor is like, Sasa, the child is looking at them. The first thing I say is, this child is autistic. So because you can't see it. So you keep saying, this child is autistic. You go to church, child clings to a stranger, the stranger wants to brush them off, especially if it's someone's husband, they do not want to be judged. You must tell the wife, this child is autistic. Now, most people don't know what is autistic.
Yeah.
So they'll be looking at you as, why is she not talking? So you have to also start explaining what is autism to people, because you tell them this child is autistic and they're like, what is autism? What is autistic? So that whole process of explaining to people what is happening to your child is very tiring. Very tiring. Now, and of course it makes you be judged.
So that way, sometimes I understand it's not that easy.
It's
actually.
tiring.
Yeah.
So you prefer to stay on your own. You don't like have those you don't go to social places. Like I cannot go to any social function other than church. Even church. There was a time I went to church with my children. My son was very young at that point. And I didn't even know my children were autistic at that point. Yeah, we knew they were autistic. We just didn't know how bad autism can get. So we went to church, and then one child is going this direction, the other one is going this direction, and you have a small child. So the usher brought me my children twice, and she was like, Mama, kama huwezi control watoto usitoke na wao nje. Like, just leave. You cannot control your children, just go. So we left church and we took forever before we could go back to church. Another thing that happens is in school, my child gets lost almost all the time. If you take them to school and people do not know that she's autistic, you see, they will not likely control her when they see her walking out. So one time I take my child to school, I ensure she has got to class, then if there is no teacher in class, I cannot leave the kids if there is no teacher. If there is no teacher in class, my child will walk out, follow me. That one time she did that. Actually, not one time. The number of times she has left, one of them has left school. Anapotea. So they get lost. So normally what helps me or what saves my life is because I announce almost to everyone.
Okay.
I keep telling everyone its children are autistic. So
the
moment someone sees this child, they always know this child is so and so's child and she is autistic. Any of the children, anyone seeing my children, I don't know about other people, but imagine losing a child who cannot even say their name.
Yeah, true.
where do you start looking for them?
And this is something that is invisible. Even if you meet them, you cannot
You
tell
wonder
them.
why is they not talking? Why
Yeah.
is this child being rude? You know, Kwanza, that's the assumption that this child is being rude. Why is she not talking, Mark?
Yeah.
You say hi to my child, she will smell.
Oh, that's what they do.
Yes. Both of them, no, one of them smells. Her sense of smell, I don't know whether it's low or it's high, but she always smells. If it's someone she likes, she will hug you. If it's someone she doesn't like, she walks away. You're going to judge me for my child not hugging you. I mean, I said I will never force my children to align. I will never force my children to stay in a specific way. If they do not want to hug you, that is how they feel. We respect that. So kwetu we have boundaries. We don't force my children to even say hi to strangers. If they don't want to say hi to strangers, it's okay.
So that means you don't even have social life in short.
You have a social life of your children. So if you have to go somewhere, you can only go without your children. If you take them for, and you see that's unfair. That's very unfair to them. So normally what we do, we go for swimming. The day we are going out for swimming, or the day we are going, normally we don't go to sit in restaurants. We prefer going out to a place where there are activities so that they can get busy. So they will be engaged. We go out for swimming. Natasha sees people drinking juice on that table. She will go to that table and you guys must give her that juice. And you see now this is a big child because she's big. And then she's not even expressing herself. Akona kisirani, like she wants that juice by force. So it takes a lot of effort to go and explain to those people that this child needs, if she's autistic, she will not understand even if you don't give her that juice. So please give her even if it's little, and then we can sort it out. She sees a child taking biscuits. She wants that biscuit, much as she knows she's not supposed to take it. But do we stop taking them out?
No, we cannot stop. Of
We
course.
cannot stop them because you see, I keep saying, it would be easier if we can lock them if they had their own world. But you're locking them and you do not have your own world.
Yeah,
They must learn how to live with other people, and other people must also learn how to live with them because they will not live in isolation.
Sure.
So it's tiring, but we do it. Very tiring. Having a social life is very tiring, but we normally do it. We have to, because if you don't do that, you don't expose them to the life out there, people will never know how to deal with them, and they will also never know how to relate with other people or how to behave out there. A good thing about autism is that it's a developmental delay. So sometimes, at some point, some kids, it's a spectrum, meaning different people are in the different levels. There are people who are severe, there are people who are mild, there are people who are low. So depending on where your child is in the spectrum, chances of them acquiring speech, chances of them learning how to interact socially are there. So you must, how will you know they can interact if you do not take them to those social places? So for birthdays, we just surrendered, we gave up. But other social activities like weddings, my daughter will even actually ask, "Twende harusi." So you have to keep asking who has a wedding. And sometimes I prefer going to weddings of people who do not know me.
So that means autism is treatable but not curable.
No, it's not treatable. Okay.
Control, you can control, but
You can only manage the symptoms through therapies. Through therapies and through diet. So if your child is having hyperactivity, I see there are people who have, my child has the hearing over sensory, overloaded. They are noise cancellation headphones. If your child has sensitivity to touch, there are people who do not want to be touched. So, and there are people who will react to certain textures of clothes. So you can only manage that by ensuring that they don't get touched, or there are people who want to have that warm, tight hug. I see there are heavy blankets for that. It also helps them calm down. There are kids who have a sensitive tongue. Their sense of taste is very sensitive, so they react to specific textures of food. They avoid some textures of food. They avoid some tastes of food. So you just need to learn where does your child fall and what management can you do to help them lead a normal life as possible. Because every disability is only a disability because there's something affecting or interfering with your abilities. There's a disability mainstreaming calls it removing the barriers. So if you know what are the barriers to your child living a normal life, then you are able to eliminate them and grant them an opportunity to lead a near normal life as possible.
Understand.
So kama one of my child is sensitive to light, so the white light reacts, she walks into a place with white light, she closes her eyes like this. So what we do is we ensure that all the bulbs in my house are orange, the orange hue. So she will be okay with that.
Okay.
So you keep adjusting. They are, of course, you cannot shield them forever and you cannot shield them completely, but you try as much as possible to understand what affects them and then to avoid that. What you control. Now, it being a developmental disorder, it means they can develop, not normally, but they can grow. If it's a delay in speech, some children acquire speech, some don't. They are completely non-verbal. So meaning it's a chance. Like depending on how severe your child's autism is. If it is not so severe, some can get speech, some may never. Some can learn how to interact with other people, some may never. Some can learn how to express themselves, some may never. Some can grow to independence, some may never. So it depends on where you are on the spectrum. I have twins. One of them is mild autism, the other one is severe autism. So, and they are twins. They manifest completely different symptoms. Completely different.
So you have 3 kids,
I have 3 kids.
but one is okay.
One is okay. It's very okay.
But one is okay. Does that is a boy or a girl?
He's a boy.
The one is okay is a boy. Does he reach a point that you feel like you're giving much attention to the girls or
All the time. My God. I think if I was to talk about how being a sibling to an autistic child affects you, one of the things, if I speak from a personal point of view,
Experience.
one of the things that has happened to my son is we put a lot of pressure on him to become an adult. We forgot he was a child. So our expectations of him were so high. We expected him to do, you are a normal child. Why can't you see that these children are special? So he at some point developed some sort of hatred towards his sisters because they are getting some preference, some special treatment that he doesn't get. Now, for example, my son, he's younger than them by 3 years. So when he was 1.5 and he could not speak, I put him in school.
because
Like
you
he
never
couldn't-
wanted that?
I
bad
did not
thing?
want that thing to repeat itself. So what did I do to this child? At 1.5, my son was in school. What did that do to him? It forced him to grow up before he was ready for school. A child is ready for school at 3 years.
Yeah, of course.
By the time my son was 3 years, he had been in school for 1.5 years. Now, I put him in school at 1.5. At 3 years, I expected him to be doing what kids who had been in school for 1.5 years were doing. But he still couldn't read. He could not express himself properly. So I put a lot of pressure on him. Mpaka ilimuaffect, like it affected his academic performance because he couldn't understand. I am child. So this one is being called, she's not responding to her name. If I get called and I don't respond to my name, I get pinched. That is what used to happen. I think it took my nephew coming to my house and staying with us for a while, and then now my son realized, kumbe ukiitwa unaitika. Because he's living with our children. See, I told you kids learn.
Yeah,
They learn through observing what other kids are doing. So my son would see, Natasha, you're calling her, she's not responding, you do nothing. You're sending her to do something, like Tasha, pick that cup and take to the kitchen. She leaves it there and walks away, and you clean up after her. So you ask Nathan the same. My son is called Nathan. Nathan, pick that cup and take it to the kitchen. He doesn't pick and he doesn't take it to the kitchen. You pinch him, mama, you scold him. He couldn't understand. So he kind of developed a hatred towards his sisters. The other day he was telling me, unajua, my sisters are not my friends. So I was like, why are they not your friends? See, Tasha akifanya hivi haulizwi na mimi ninaulizwa. So I had to communicate to him that he doesn't have autism, these ones have autism, so the expectations on these ones are lesser than on him. Now, he also hates another thing that I used to do for him. When my kids At some point, I started sending them to the shop alone. So I would give them money and tell them, go to Jerry's place and buy 1, 2, 3. So as they walk out, I send my son behind them and I'm like, go check after your sisters to ensure that they don't get hit by motorbikes and they do not get lost. So they go to the shop and they come back. So my son hated that. So you would give him money and he's like, Miss, that keepers, I don't want this money because I do not want to walk after my sisters. It's okay, don't give me money. So kinda he feels like it's a burden.
Isolated too.
Yes, and then he always is looking out for friends to play with because these kids will not understand his game. So when he wants to play with them, they cry. Them, they are very individualistic. They want to do their own things. They want to do their own games. The kind of stuff they watch on TV are things he cannot watch. So they keep grabbing remote.
Yeah.
They are fighting for the remote. What they put is something he cannot watch. He doesn't even understand how they enjoy those things. And then when he takes the remote, this one throws a meltdown. You ask him to give her back the remote, he doesn't understand. Why is she getting?
Yeah.
So striking that balance between raising this child and making him feel comfortable while at the same time trying to make this other special one feel comfortable is a very difficult thing. It's usually very hard.
So what keeps you going like every day? What is that thing that keeps you going?
Very simple. I keep telling myself, autism is not from God. I will not lie. I believe in God. I'm a strong believer in God. And I'm a very spiritual person. So I believe everything that happens in the physical realm happens in the spiritual. And one thing I know about the devil is that I know about God. God is a very ordinary God. And God does not create confusion. He's not the author of confusion. And autism is a very confused world, by the way. It's a very crazy world. So I feel like there's something that my children had, or the children who end up being autistic, they must have been a very special child that the devil took his time to destroy them. You know? So me, I always feel like Shetani is not an omnipresent person. He's never everywhere. So, but he's able to identify or pick people who have stars. So I feel like there must have been something very special about the children, or the children who have those kind of challenges, that the devil would take his time to pursue them right from childhood. So my desire, or what keeps me going, is I would want to see what God had in store for these children, because I feel like they will one day become. So I want to grow up, I want them to grow up, and I want to see what exactly was this that God had in store for them. I want to see them become. What is this that God wanted them to become? Because at one point I told God, I am giving back these children to you, and I believe that you will make them who you had in mind. Because the Bible says He knew each one of us before He formed us in our mother's womb. So what you had in mind before you formed them in their mother's womb, I would want to live long enough to see it. So that's what keeps me going.
Oh, that's encouraging. It has built my faith too. And I'd also like to know, what kind of advice can you give? I know there are people watching this all over the world, and maybe some of them they have those autism kids. And most of the people I follow so much, one of the challenges they go through is like their husband, they leave them because of the kids, something like that. So I really want to know, what kind of advice can you give to parents who have autism kids?
One of the things I would say is, regardless of who you are, what you have in terms of money in your account, status, exactly who you are, you can never give yourself the kind of child you would want. Children are a gift from God, and He gives them in the package and the form and the shape that He wants them in. And knowing that you can't give yourself such a child, my advice is this: always seek to ask for grace to handle your child the best way you can, to give that child love, because that's the only thing those children need. They need to be loved. They are okay. They need and they deserve to exist. Like God is not a time waster. He didn't waste His time creating a useless human being. So that person is, the existence of that person is known by God, and it was put in your life. That child was put in your life for a purpose. So you can only aspire to love them and give them the necessary love, regardless of whether the other parent wants to be there or not. You can only ask God to give you the grace to love that child and to nurture them into what God wanted them to be. And someday they're gonna make you proud. One day. Yeah. So keep loving them, because you couldn't give yourself the kind of child you would wanted. Mimi, I had the children I had in mind and the ones I have are two different things. But when I realized that I have no capacity whatsoever to give myself the kind of children I want, then I started embracing the ones that God had given me, in their form, in their shortcomings, and in all that. You might want a light-skinned child. Imagine you could get married to a Mzungu and still get a dark-skinned child, if that is what God had in mind. So once you get a child from God, you take it as a gift, you embrace it as it is, you give it love, because that's the only job a parent has, and aspire to give them as normal a life as possible. Don't show them that my children do not get to know they are special in any way. We focus much on what they can do rather than what they can't do. So what they can do, we cheer them on. What they can't do, we help them. So when you start focusing on the positive side of life, I think life becomes easier. Because there's always a positive. Yes. The only problem we human beings do is we focus so much on what is not happening. We know, or we tend to forget what is happening. So focus on what is happening. Focus on the fact that you are a mother. Focus on the fact that God was gracious enough to make you a mother, and treat that child as a blessing.
I'm inspired and challenged at the same time. I'm sure there's somebody watching this video and maybe they want to reach you. Maybe they're parents of an autism kid. You know, like sometimes autism as your firstborn, there are some things you need to learn from other people for you to be perfect. Do you mind giving us your contact or even your email address, any platform that people can reach you? You can also share your social media handles with us. Maybe if somebody wants to reach you direct, can you please share your number or email address, anything that people can reach you in case they want to know more about autism?
My number is 0723 396 938. I hate phone calls. Kindly text. Or you can I do a lot of email at work, so don't email me. You can check me out on my TikTok handle. What is my TikTok handle? Wamoyo Mwangi.
I'm going to put
I think she
there.
can put it there. And my Facebook account, I'll give you the link so that you can put it there. Then we can link up there and talk. Yeah. I do WhatsApp a lot, so if you want to WhatsApp me on my phone, it's okay. Just don't call me. I hate phone calls. I'm an introvert.
Yeah, I really appreciate guys for your support, and I really want to say the time we met, like today when she came, when you were having a conversation, I learned a lot of things from her, especially about autism. Even before we started this interview, and I was trying to tell her you need to have a YouTube channel too, because some people like us, we're also learning from you. You know, somebody like me, I didn't know the things that we have talked about today. I didn't know such things exist. You know, it's like I'm shocked at the same time. I'm inspired. You're actually a strong lady. You see, like me, sometimes I'm left with kids, like one or two are just okay. And at the end of the day, I feel it's so tiring. You know, you feel exhausted, and I'm like, hey, you're really a strong lady. And really appreciate you for coming in our show today. And I'm going to put your link there so that in case anyone wants to reach you, like to have a talk with you, they'll have to reach you either through message. You don't want calls, right?
Unless it's an emergency.
Yeah, so it's good you do what you love. But me, like personally, I prefer chatting because sometimes
WhatsApp me any day, anytime. I will respond.
Yeah, I'm going to put there her social media handle: Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Guys, make sure you go and follow her. She's really an inspiring. Go to her page. Make sure you follow her. If you have an autism kid, or if there's something that you need to learn from her, please go follow her. Go comment there. Say something in the comment section. And we really appreciate you for being in our show today. We are going to end this video at this particular point. Let's meet next time in our next video. Bye bye.
Thank you.
This is a square. Good girl. This is a triangle. Good girl. This is a triangle. Good girl. What is this? Triangle. Good. What is this? Square.
Square. Good girl. Very good.
Square.
Square. Triangle.
Square.
That's a triangle, Mama.
Square.
Triangle. Square is this one.
Square.
Square is this one.
Square.
Triangle.
Square.
Mama, that's a triangle. Square is this one. See? Square. This is a square. Square.
Triangle.
Triangle.
Try.
That's a... What is this?
Triangle.
Triangle. Good girl.
Triangle.
Triangle. Good girl. What is this? What is this,
It's a
Tasha?
head guy.
Yeah?
It's a head guy.
No, this is a tree.
It's a head guy.
I don't know what that is, but this is a tree.
It's a head guy.
That's a tree.
It's a head guy.
Yeah?
It's a head guy.
I don't know what that is.
It's a tree.
Tree.
It's a head guy.
It's a tree. It's an apple tree. That's a... Yeah?
Tree.
Tree. Good girl.
Jason and Mama tree.
Hmm?
Jason and Mama tree.
Shake, shake. What tree? I don't know what you're saying, but that's a tree. Good girl.
Jason and Mama tree.
What is this? Pink.
White.
White.
Black.
Red.
Yellow.
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 Green.
Green.
Blue.
Blue. Very good. Rebecca.
Blue.
B-
White.
White. Thank you.
White.
White. Good.
Green.
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 Green. Good girl. No, it's all right. It's okay.
Pink.
Pink. Good girl.
Yellow.
That's not yellow.
Orange.
Orange. Good girl.
Green.
Green. Very good.
Blue.
Blue. Good.
Yellow.
That's not yellow.